When Coco Chanel spoke the words, "Fashion passes, style remains," she couldn't have known how relevant it would be 50 years on. With every season, we see more colors, collections, and styles than ever before. But while fashion moves faster and faster, the concept of clothing hasn't changed much in over 100 years. Textiles still cover bodies and signify social code. Fabrics are still sewn with needles and sold in stores. Maybe it doesn't make sense to disrupt a $1.7 trillion industry. But shouldn't there be something more progressive than design and style changes? Shouldn't there be innovation that alters the entire concept of clothing? This is a film about the people behind the scenes who are working to shape the next big step in clothing history.
So this is Studio XO. We're here in London in our lab. Basically, it's made up of 4 quarters, so we do all our coding and programming over on this side of the room. Then we have our kind of more traditional fashion, sewing machines, pattern cutting table. And then in the hybrid space, we've got our 3D printers, all of our kind of lathes and tools to mix the hard and soft materials together. Inherently, we're designers, so we are interested in the artistry of design, and very much XO, we explore science fiction. We begin with a narrative, we imagine a world, but for us it's really about making science fiction science fact.
Nancy Tilbury is one of the pioneers of merging technology and fashion. Together with her team at Studio XO, she works to actively develop what they call digital couture experiences, which in basic terms means creating garments that are interactive and evolving. Her ultimate goal is to bring these ideas and concepts to the streets. But as a first step, they're creating extravagant outfits for the likes of Arcade Fire, Black Eyed Peas, and of course, Lady Gaga.
So Lady Gaga had done the iTunes Festival, and it was the first time that she'd played art pop, many of the new singles. So it's a really exciting, exhilarating night. And we decided that we would create this almost like performance art. We created a dress called Anemone, which she wore in the evening after the events. And as she was leaving, to leave the venue, we set up a performance using Anemone where she came out to the crowd and the dress animated and released bubbles. She almost glided down the hill, so the conditions were beautiful. The press had to be very silent because it was very late, so you could just only hear the clicking of the cameras and the whirring of the dress together. These beautiful bubbles came out of nowhere, popping, making these structures. The fans were all clapping. Having been a designer that's been working with technology for nearly 15 years, you learn these really great tricks, and those tricks turn into a methodology, and that methodology determines the authenticity of Studio XO. That's what makes our work special, that we start with an effect, we build a narrative in our minds, we work out what it is that we want the machine to do, and everything else really falls into place. It's amazing, the sound, the fact that it's a garment with a factory inside. the sound that it makes, the fact that it's building and producing bubbles, that you have these transformative pieces. So everything throughout the garment is 3D printed. So all of the mechanics of it are 3D printed. And then we have an architecture inside that's transforming the liquid across the garment into the varying places. So you really, it is pure design engineering that happens to be dressed up as fashion. Philosophically, as a project, we're really, really keen to tell people about this transformation in textiles, particularly in textiles and technology, and that even though it's fun and playful and it has all these kind of curious elements, it is a machine that's transforming the way we dress.
While Studio XO are at the cutting edge of fashion, they're not alone in putting machines on our bodies. Historically, this space has been perceived as too cyborg and science fiction. But recently, there's been a rapid breakthrough of products grouped under the term wearable tech. Most of today's solutions are limited to head and wrist displays. Behind the scenes, however, the race is on to integrate technology with mainstream clothing. In Germany, sportswear icon Adidas has spent the last few years developing a system that can monitor an athlete's real-time performance via their clothing.
So here we have our TechFit Elite underlayer. So this is the shirt that has the heart rate sensors integrated, and you can see here, you can see a little bit from the outside, but we'll have to take a closer look at that. On the front of the shirt, as you can see here on the outside, is that this is where our fabric heart rate sensors lie. And you can see they're not very easy to see, and it's all part of the garment. This is the back, so you can see it running around. These two pieces together are essentially what the athlete wears. We are currently at the spot where we have heart rate in there. We're looking at adding things like respiration, and obviously you're seeing a lot of other things coming into the market at the moment with integrating movement sensors and accelerometers into fabric, which are very, very small and non-invasive. And I think for us working in elite sports, that's really the key, is that it has to be something that the athlete cannot feel and it doesn't interfere with what they're doing. I think when we first had our first prototype, we went to AC Milan, and they're a very close partner of ours, and they've worked a lot on us in terms of user interfaces and how we display data. They're one of the most advanced teams in terms of physiological monitoring, and they use a lot of systems, they collect a lot of data, they do a lot of testing on their players, and they're really considered as being on the cutting edge when it comes to this sort of technology. I think the first time we went there with the prototype is we had these shirts with sensors inbuilt them, and at that time we actually still had a physical wire running through the shirts and not inbuilt fabric sensors. And we had players cutting off the sleeves of a €500 handmade shirt, and guys not wanting to wear the shirt. They obviously have to be tight to get the heart rate. We have systems out there with the German national team. We've just delivered to Mexico, Argentina, Colombia. We're out there with the entire Major League Soccer as well, and we're really getting a feel for this technology and really just starting to understand where we need to take it to really get things to the next level and take performance and sport in general to another level.
Total time, 1 hour and 56 seconds. Active time, 1 hour 30 seconds. Distance, 8.49 kilometers. High intensity distance, 965.
I think sooner rather than later you're going to see more and more sensors and more clothes, and not just in sports, I think in everyday life as well. I think just in terms of normal health monitoring and understanding what your body's going through and in healthcare, And just in general, I think people want to understand more about what they're going through and how they can improve on how they live. So I think we're starting this at an elite level and at a level at which people are getting paid a lot of money to perform. But at the end of the day, we are just measuring things. So it's all about how you use the data and how you present it. Hey guys, can we just come down here? Can I just get you guys in a line on the end there and just like warm up, so jog end to end. So here today, I mean, really we've had some software updates recently, and I'll be looking at some of the changes we've made to user interfaces. So some of them very slight, some of them a bit more major, looking at how we display acceleration as an example. So what we're going to do here, you can see that these guys, the heart rates are in the blue zone at the moment. So you can see we're down in the lower ranges for their heart rate, and we're going to warm them up and bring them up to a level at which we can get them playing a game and having a bit more intensity. In my opinion, I really think we're in the bacteria stage. We haven't evolved very far. We're just starting to see the beginnings of what you could call life, I suppose, in this space. You're going to see things get a lot smaller, a lot faster, a lot smarter. And again, you're going to see the platforms evolve, I think, to make more use of these. And I think when people talk about wearable technologies, there's so much focus on the actual devices and the sensors, and it's a watch that does all this, but that's not really the important part. And I think you'll see these whole wearable environments, not just devices or fabrics or things, is you'll see environments and platforms growing. And it's really, I think, these things become more accepted as they become more seamless, easier to integrate into everyday life, and actually getting and seeing value from it. So I think it's going to explode. We're in its infancy, and there's going to be some exciting things come out of it.
When envisioning the future, it's easy to get caught up in the marvels of technology. But could the most groundbreaking of future innovations be organic? Embracing nature rather than dominating it? BioCouture is a design consultancy focused on bringing living and biological materials into fashion and sportswear. Founder Suzanne Lee is currently heading one of the most thought-provoking initiatives in the industry today.
I was writing a book about the future of fashion, trying to discover what might be happening in fashion in sort of 50 years from now. So I was talking to lots of scientists and engineers, and one of the people I spoke to was a biologist. He was the first person to suggest to me that if you really want to completely rethink how you might create a piece of clothing, that you could imagine growing a dress in a vat of liquid using bacteria. It just blew me away as an idea, and we just carried on the conversation and began to collaborate. We started just growing small trays, me in my bathroom, him in his garage, and, you know, just kind of comparing notes on what we were doing with temperature and covering and, you know. But very quickly we could see that there was something there that was really promising. The process we used was incredibly simple, and actually I realised that it wasn't so difficult to produce something that not only was textile-like in feel, but that I could sew together like a normal piece of clothing. And it just shifted my whole thinking in terms of how you might create fashion in the future. Our basic recipe is green tea, sugar, some acetic acid like a cider vinegar, and then the starter culture. And that's yeast and bacteria, but it comes in the form of a mat. And that mat is basically your mother. It's called a mother culture. So that will give birth to something that will grow on the surface of the liquid. And it will take on the shape of whatever your container is. So if you had a star-shaped container, that would be the shape of the material that you grew.